I can see a day when there's no more crying.
Okay, so about 2 days ago I made a video explaining that this life that we're living is actually a reflection of what's going on in the inner world. And I had a question. Someone asked, well, how would you explain, if life is a reflection and it's because of what we're thinking, we're manifesting, how would you explain a child being born into poverty, being born into lack, and being born into ignorance? How do you explain that that child is reflecting his thoughts? And let's even expand that idea even further, because people will ask, well, what about a child that's born and he's raped or he's molested at 4 years old or 2 years old, and all the other apparent injustice that we see in the world? How do you explain that if we are creating our own reality? And that's a very good question. Now, to ask such a question would be to suppose that birth is the beginning, and it's not. The soul that's incarnating at birth, that's not the beginning of the soul. Now, it could very well be that soul's very first time on this planet, but it's certainly not the beginning of the existence of that soul. So that's one. Two, life is a continuation. So to look at that child born into poverty, born into lack, dealing with all sorts of drama, and to figure that, well, we understand what is going on, is like walking in the middle of a Quentin Tarantino movie and figure that, well, I know exactly where this plot is going, because you don't. You don't have the full picture. Now, several things that we have to look at as well. First of all, like I said, the birth, being born into this life right now, is a continuation. It's a process. Like reading volume 4 of a book where there were other volumes that we haven't read before, so we're not really understanding what we're seeing. Take my life, for instance. When I was born, I came into a family where by 4 years old I developed a blister, or in Jamaica what we call a corn, on my finger, my left hand, because I was writing so much. I always had to write. I needed to write. Whenever my mom went out, whenever she went to the market or wherever she went, I needed a book. She had to return with a book. By 6 years old, I read every book in the house. Now, I'm the only reader in the house. So it's not in my genetic imprint because of my mother or my father, my parents, that I'm a reader. I'm the only reader in the house. By 6 years old, I read every book in the house. I said to my mom, I need something more to read. I was fiending for information, for knowledge. She said, well, read the Bible. So I read the Bible from cover to cover before I was 7 years old. Now, when you look at that, that was a trait that was unique to me and my family. No one else had that trait. So obviously I came in with a thirst for this knowledge when someone else in my family didn't have the least bit of curiosity. Now, going back to this is not the beginning. Bear in mind the child that's born into poverty or born into any circumstance, that child is a personality. And the personality is governed by an oversoul. The oversoul looks at the life before the personality comes into this world. And the oversoul said, well, what are the challenges? What can we learn in this life? And the oversoul kind of picks out a lesson that the child is going to experience, or the personality rather is going to experience. And all the soul cares about is the lesson. We're the one who attach some sort of meaning to the lesson, but life within itself has no meaning. And what I mean by it has no meaning, when I say that, people think I mean that life has no purpose. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying nothing in life comes with a meaning attached to it. Let's take a couple, for instance, that they're together and all of a sudden someone cheats. Let's say the man went out and cheated. The woman might interpret this action on the man that he doesn't love me. And the man might interpret it, it's not that I don't love her, but a 42-inch hip is just absolutely irresistible. I got to make myself known to that. So the man has an interpretation of what happened and the woman has an interpretation of what happened. They both have a meaning, but neither of the meaning are absolutes. Whatever we attach to the meaning, we then lock ourselves into a set of circumstance that lead us down a path to believe that that meaning that we've given this circumstance is true. So when the woman says, well, he doesn't love me, and she lock herself into that set of ideas, she start walking down a path and all this action will be reflected and interpreted as he doesn't love me, when that might not necessarily be the truth. So to answer your question, a child personality coming here and born into all sorts of creative circumstances, it's not the beginning. It's they are continuing on a path. They're continuing to work out karma. They're continuing to have experiences that will take the oversoul to a greater understanding of itself. And again, bear in mind, once the oversoul was laying all this information out, the oversoul was fully conscious that it's not separated from God. So it's not concerned about some financial challenges or some relationship challenges or any challenge, some handicap. It's not concerned about any of that because it is very clear that it's connected to God. And with the right guidance, I could guide the personality back to being whole. The problem is a personality, us on the planet, very seldom listen to that inner guidance until we're really in a corner and we're desperate and we have no more experts outside here to listen to, and we fall within ourselves and say, God, please just help me, just show me. And actually that's called surrender. And when we surrender, we tend to pick up some sort of clarity. So I hope this helps. We could explore it further. If you email Megan, if you have more questions, I'll definitely go into it. I think tomorrow I want to talk about faith, but again, I'm very open. We're winding down. We're coming up on the last 10 days, I believe. So, let's finish strong. Talk some more tomorrow.
I can see a